Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Thursday evening. We got a saying around here, hey, last show, best show. It is a Thursday night. We are culminating hours 5 and 6 of this week. Oh, and by the way, got an additional 30 minutes of film study content only if you are subscribed over on patreon.com/Brooks Awesome. We'll get to that in the local hour because we did watch some good old tape of Mr. Urasek today, Urasek, excuse me. But do have a loaded show for you guys tonight. I want to start here. It is peak off season, and it's only peak off season. Honestly, it's like a notification that off season's like fully here when Paul Feinbaum puts a legend on the hot seat. It doesn't exist. It doesn't start. We don't officially announce off season talk until Paul Feinbaum puts one of the legends on the hot seat. It is not officially the summer until Paul Feinbaum says something that make you say, damn, that's hot. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what time of the year it is because Paul Feinbaum out here saying it. The greatest to do it in the SEC space is out here doing it again. We have a hot take. We officially have the start of the summer. This is a quote from Paul Feinbaum about none other than one Dabo Swinney. Quote, "He is falling far behind. Doesn't mean they can't have a good program if you call a 9-3 or 8-4 with the occasional 10-2 football program a good program." He would go on to say that if you missed a minute in this sport, you have fell behind. And this guy has missed 3 years. He is way behind. And here's the hammer. He's not catching up. That's right. Paul Feinbaum has gone about basically firing Dabo Swinney within the quote next 2 to 3 years, he says. Dabo will not be at Clemson. And this is not only noteworthy because it's Paul Feinbaum saying it. This is noteworthy because Paul Feinbaum apparently talked to some of his friends that are Clemson boosters.
I mean, it's funny because I think he lays it out more effectively than most people have. Most people, it's just, oh, well, he doesn't use the transfer portal, so Dabo's cooked. Whereas he's like, well, this has been a culmination of what has been going on for the previous 3 years. And now that to me means over the next 3 years, like, there's no other option than for Dabo to be gone out of Clemson.
Yeah, he said, I mean, this isn't even a dude that's missed a couple of minutes. This is a guy that's been burying his head in the sand for 3 years. So says Feinbaum. So it kind of got me to start questioning myself, not myself, but just to have the general thought process here, Jay. Will, can you win a national title? Can you win a college football playoff without avoiding the portal entirely? And in Clemson's case, avoiding any type of major NIL push, right? They're not out here winning bidding wars while also simultaneously not getting involved in any type of portal recruitments or any type of roster additions via other means other than high school recruiting. So they're not paying for top dollar on the high school market. They've said that. They've admitted to that. They've agreed to that. We're just not going to be that school morally, all that good stuff. And then on the other end, they're not going to make any additions to their roster or any improvements to their roster via the transfer portal. So can you avoid both of these and still be a national title contending program? I would say yes, if and only if you recruit at the highest of highest levels, right? I'm talking about like top 3 perennial roster additions and perennial roster makeup. Can we look at your roster and say that is one of the top 3 rosters in terms of talent from top to bottom across the sport? You can do this. You can avoid all these modern means of roster acquisition if and only if you recruit the high school level at an elite level. Well, let's take a look. 2024, Clemson finished with the 15th overall consensus class, had the same ranking in 2023, had the 14th overall recruiting class in 2022. Their last elite and really, really elite recruiting class was in 2021. Ironically, or I should say not ironically, the last recruiting class that wasn't impacted, Jonathan, by name, image, and likeness-based recruiting. They finished 5th in that class. In 2020, they finished 3rd in recruiting. dropped down to 12th in 2019. But that super elite level of recruiting required to win a national title, they did it in 2020 and they did it in 2021. However, name, image, and likeness comes to play in the summer of 2021, really impacting that 2022 recruitment cycle. They finished 14th. All right, so they're not recruiting at elite level, and they probably won't, because we've already laid out this is an NIL-based recruiting strategy moving forward, at least to an extent, right? You don't have to be the nation's leader in name, image, and likeness, but you certainly can't play ball or not play ball at all. I think the happy medium for this has been programs like Alabama. It's been programs like Georgia over the last couple of years that have said, hey, we don't want to get into negotiation tactics. We don't want to get into hard bargaining, but we will at least play ball. Okay, we're not going to have you come here for free and for a great religious experience and a great football experience. And great education. That's not been the sole pitch from some of these SEC schools that don't necessarily want to play, Ohio State levels of roster payments, but they also don't want to be the Clemsons of the world. They're kind of finding these happy medium grounds. Clemson is not. So they're obviously not stacking their rosters with high level top 5 roster talent coming out of the high school level. But what about development, right? If you're not recruiting at the highest level, by God, you better be taking the B+ groceries and making that dish taste like an A-, or making that dish taste like a solid 95 on the 0 to 100 scale, right? Well, Clemson's developed relatively well. In the last 5 drafts, they've had 26 draftees. That's quick math, about an average of 5 draft picks per season. That would put them on par, Jonathan, with the likes of like LSU, the Penn States of the world, even the Michigans of the world, right? This will put them on par with those. Maybe not on par with the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Alabamas, but nonetheless, they are putting players in the NFL. But his recruiting has dropped off dramatically. His wins and losses have dropped off dramatically. Did you know that this was the first 4-loss season at Clemson since 2011? Gone 12 years in that program, with this being the worst year on the field for them in the last 12 years. So you can understand why some of this quote-unquote heat is being found. But it's not hard to figure out why Clemson is not the Clemson of old as they are today, right? Their roster's just not as good, let alone the quarterback position. We could talk about how during the 2 national title runs and I think it was 6 straight CFP or college football playoff rankings or admittance or whatever it was, the long run of Clemson dominance, I mean, we all can admit it was mostly to do with quarterback play. I think we all can agree upon that. You have Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence back-to-back, or relatively close to as back-to-back as you possibly can have in terms of starters. You're going to have good football teams. So we've obviously seen that. But the drop-off in terms of like what we believe Clemson to be, it's based solely in their recruiting efforts. They just haven't been good enough on the recruiting trail in the national limelight for them to be considered national contenders year in and year out, like Paul's talking about. And here's my thing. Here's the really scary thing. We could talk about worst season since 2013. We could talk about, hey, you haven't recruited inside the top 15 in 3 cycles. Hey, you're not doing anything in the portal. We could talk about all those things. The main problem for me with Clemson, they've had 4 offensive linemen drafted, not in the first round. I'm talking about period. They've had 4 offensive linemen drafted since 2016. You can't win or compete for national titles recruiting and developing and producing offensive line products like that, Jonathan. It's just been downhill across the board for Clemson. I don't necessarily want to be on Feinbaum's side of saying, hey, they'll never get back to it. The best bet for Clemson fans, you should be happy with a 10-2 season. You might sneak into that every once in a while. I don't feel comfortable saying that because of what the ACC kind of looks like perennially. But I am here to say that, yeah, the days of Clemson finishing in the top 5 in recruiting and the days of Clemson being a shoe-in for the guarantee ACC automatic bid in the playoff, those days are probably gone.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And everybody brings up the quarterback position, and that's true. The quarterback position has definitely dropped off for Clemson, but you're right in saying that it is across the board because there is no Mike Williams in the receiver corps right now. You had Will Shipley after Travis Etienne, but you don't even have a running back right now that's kind of this big-time playmaker for you. The offensive line you just hit on. So it's a lack of production at the quarterback spot, but obviously like the offense as a whole has dropped off as well. The defense has remained solid. The defense has remained good, but what made Clemson so good during those national title runs and that college football playoff run is you had a great defense on top of an offense that could put up points. So you can't have one drop off drastically like the offense has over the years and just continue to fight with your defense and continue to fight and fight and fight. The production is just not ever going to remain the same.
I wonder if I gave Cade Klubnik Justin Ross and I gave him some weaponry, the Leggett kid they had a couple years back at tight end, would he look much better? I don't know. He's not as physically as gifted as Trevor ever was. He's certainly not as gifted as Deshaun Watson ever was, but he was a 5-star quarterback. He won state titles in the highest classification in the state of Texas. He was the Elite 11 MVP. This was a highly, highly touted football player that seemed to be a guy that was on the borderline of like a guaranteed hit if there ever is such thing at the quarterback position. And he's just not been very good at Clemson. He's been turnover prone. He's been sack prone. He's been a lot of things that aren't necessarily leading to elite level football.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me think that maybe it would be different is like DJU, when he first started for Clemson against Notre Dame a couple years ago, like that DJU looked completely different than the one that would resolve during the very next season. And I think you can attribute that to the offensive line and their poor play and maybe the lack of weaponry, but I think that now that you have two consecutive quarterbacks kind of fizzle out like this and maybe not lead up to expectations, maybe it is just a situation overall. But also, we've seen quarterbacks like Spencer Rattler last year for South Carolina. He played extremely well under horrible circumstances, but he also has other attributes that maybe Cade Klubnik doesn't have in playmaking ability and whatnot. But it's just so hard to differentiate between the two. And also, you've had two of them now in a row. So more so, it's really just your program from what I can tell.
And it's your third year starting. Like you're going into year 3 for Cade Klubnik. You pushed out DJU because this guy was supposed to be the next one. Like your whole team kind of had bought into the Cade Klubnik regime. And like, dude, it's time to start seeing some 5-star results from Klubnik. I think they led the nation in red zone turnovers last year, I want to say. If they didn't, they had to have been up there high because they led the nation in snaps taken on the offensive side of the football. And I think they were outside of the top 40 in points scored. So you must not be very good in the red zone if that's the case. But nonetheless, we'll get those numbers a little bit later. Welcome into tonight's show. We do indeed have a loaded one for you. A lot of TV-related news sneaking its way into today's show topics. New signing windows are on the horizon for college football. We'll tell you what that means for your favorite team. Expectations have certainly changed for a lot of fan bases around college football with the expansion of the college football playoff. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. NASCAR making the show notes. Can you believe it? Not me. Wouldn't have never said it. And we may or may not get to this Michigan deal that was apparently proposed to Jim Harbaugh. An interesting little note in that contract that I want to talk about tonight, so we'll be looking at that as well. But make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And if you have not already, look at all of the logo placement around this place for our friends over at Prize Picks. Okay, head over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code Brooks today. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you'll get matched instantly with $100 right there in your account. Lots of action to be had over there, lots of profits to be made. So head over to prizepicks.com, use that promo code Brooks, and you'll get 100% deposit match. All right, so this TV news. Now, it was announced, I think, back mid-season, I want to say October, that ESPN renewed their college football playoff deal for $7 billion. Okay, that's annually, I believe. $7 billion. So you would imagine their return on this product is rather high. Just for the college football playoff, by the way. This is not for the whole season. This is just for the playoffs themselves. I can't remember the exact number of games in this TV package. Don't want to do the math in my head right now because it would make for really shitty radio and really shitty podcasting platform or content. But nonetheless, they bought the package for the college football playoff for $7 billion. And there was a little note. Again, we do the reading so you don't have to. There was a note in that initial press release that basically said ESPN has purchased also the rights to go out and rebrand and repackage this for reselling. So they own all of the games, they can feel free to do whatever they want. And when I first read that note, do you remember what I said and told the audience that was probably more than likely going to happen?
You said that TNT would come into the mix, didn't you?
I said somebody would.
Yeah.
I said they would package this up and they would separate it out, break it all out, and then try to get some money back, some return on this investment via another dumbass TV company coming in here and paying overpriced for their product because now they own the product. And that's exactly what happened today. It was announced that TNT and Turner would ultimately be buying the first round of these football games and these playoff football games. No price was reported on this. You would imagine it stays, pretty low key on this.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it was in the billions. I would imagine these first round playoff games, maybe just $1 billion, whatever it was. But I would imagine it sneaks into the B's. If you're paying $7 billion for all four rounds now, right?
Yeah.
Semis, finals, quarters, first round.
Yeah.
So 4 rounds. I would imagine if you bought the first round of this, you probably took maybe a quarter of it, maybe a third of the overall price tag on this. And oh, by the way, it should be noted that I think we all know, at least I know, because I follow sports television news pretty closely. You know that TNT no longer has the NBA deal, right?
Yeah.
You do know this. I don't know if the audience knows this, okay? The NBA TV rights is up now, and it hasn't been officially reported, but it's been pretty much reported that TNT lost the first round of bidding on that. So TNT no longer has the NBA rights, which means TNT's got a frick ton of money just sitting around right now that they don't know what they're going to do with. They're going to buy some college football rights with this, and that's exactly what they did to me. Very weird pairing to me, J-Will.
Yeah.
ESPN and TNT. Also, by the way, TNT, no football personalities on the payroll, right?
No, not at all.
Hey, TNT, just going to put my name into the hat right here, okay? If you need an elite I'll actually be color. You need an elite color analyst, I got you. As far as a play-by-play guy goes, don't worry. I can play with anybody, okay? I can play with absolutely, I'm like ketchup of condiments. I can go on anything, okay? Just throw me on. I promise I'll be good. Okay, you might go, this is an interesting combination, and wham! It's going to be the best one you've ever had. Okay, so I'm going to put my name into the hat there for the TNT and Turner Broadcasting department, because last thing I want them to do is slap Iron Eagle on another college football product. I don't need it. I think actually Iron's with somebody else. But nonetheless, give me a fresh face. And by fresh face, I mean mine. Okay, so let me do a little play-by-play or a little color. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Lots of jokers around here.
To me, though, I'm interested to see how this goes too, because not only is it a large investment for TNT, but we also got word about last week how the NFL has scheduled games the same time that these playoff games are supposed to be played. So TNT makes this a large deal, and then your first year with this deal, you're going to be competing with the king of football. That's who your ratings are competing with. And you can say what you want about how big college football is and how great the college football playoff will be with the expanded playoff. But NFL's king rating-wise, we know this, and it continues to be king. And there's some really good games that they scheduled for these playoff games. So tough first year for you, in my opinion. I'll
be interested to see first-round college football playoff versus Week 16 or whenever it is of the NFL. Like, who's about to win? Because I would imagine NFL still gets the dub, but it's going to be closer than people think.
2 of the games that they have are Chiefs versus Texans, and then Steelers versus
okay, so maybe not
someone else. I can't remember. I don't know.
So Chiefs the NFL might wipe them.
Chiefs versus Texans, yeah, that's going to be a big one. I can't remember what the other one was. It's the Steelers and one of their rivals. I just can't think of it right now.
All right, we got a quick super chat right here, and this is a question from Asif Iqbal that says, what can Bills fans expect from Cedric Van Pran Granger? First and foremost, a leader. I think if you've done any draft analysis on that one, you'll find that out. Very few people come into college football programs and are kind of like anointed a leader or anointed as someone who will eventually lead this program, more so than Cedric was, even as a true freshman. Like when he got there, everybody was like, all right, this is the future at center. Trey Hill's going to play this last year. And then we got 3 good ones. Okay, 3 good solid years of Cedric Van Pran Granger. Also very rare that offensive linemen live up to and exceed the hype that they came into high school or came into college with. This was the nation's #1 ranked center. And for 4 years, I would say 3 years as a starter, started 45 games in a row for the University of Georgia. I would say he lived up to and exceeded every bit of expectation he had coming into college. So that's relatively important. As far as what type of football player is he, I think Buffalo is a really good play style match for him, because if I remember Buffalo's offense correctly, their run game is very much so vertical. It is not stretch based. Okay, so if you're one of these football teams that's like the San Francisco 49ers, or if you're like the LA Rams, or if you're like the Bengals, if you're one of these football teams that wants to attack B gap and beyond in the run game, meaning your offensive linemen are working horizontally and then working vertically, Cedric Van Pran's not your guy. He is not a horizontally based football player. He is very vertically based. So if your offense requires double teams and movements on the line of scrimmage, and we're trying to reset the line in the run game, which I believe, again, don't watch a ton of NFL football, paid to talk about college. If you watch the Bills the last couple of years, that's what I see them doing. I see them attacking in the run game, B gap to B gap, really trying to punch you in the mouth, and then play off play action and maybe boot the quarterback every once in a while and get the quarterback involved in the run game as well if you need to. But they are a downhill run game, and that fits Cedric's game plan and game style. A lot of people, when he entered the draft this year, Jonathan, wanted to see him get drafted by the Eagles just because Jason Kelce retired and center for center, all that good stuff. That could not have been a worse stylistic match for him. And I know I've talked about this, but I'm going to hit it here again. Jason Kelce was a high school running back. That's what he played before he got to Cincinnati. He was a 265-pound sophomore starting at center for Cincinnati. He was a 285-pound rookie starting for the Philadelphia Eagles. He probably finished his career at 290 pounds. He was an ultra athlete. They pulled him. They got him out in space. They had him blocking outside linebackers on counter and did a bunch of things predicated off of him being an elite athlete. Cedric's a lot of things. He's not an elite athlete. He's elite in a ton of areas. He's not elite in that area. So that just was never a good fit. Buffalo, great fit. Tremendous fit. They had a positional need for him, and they stylistically match him as well. Let's continue with the TV news here, Jay Will. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Apparently, Fox Sports is going to be broadcasting on Friday nights, and I don't know how I feel about this, because in my opinion, there are 2, maybe 3 days in the calendar that are reserved during the fall for other football events. Friday nights are high school football. Piss off. If you want to play something else, I don't care if Pac-12 After Dark's playing. I ain't watching it. Okay? I don't care. I'm watching Friday night football. That is what it is reserved for. And Sundays, I'm watching NFL football. Don't try to sneak in a mid-major matchup on me. Don't try to sneak in an ACC matchup on Sunday night against me. I'm watching Chiefs-Titans. I don't care. Get out of here. Those 2 days are reserved for me, and here we are, Fox trying to grab some Friday night spotlight.
Do you think this is them feeling a little threatened about ESPN getting the SEC? And they're based on how they're doing the scheduling, they're going to do noon games, still doing 3:30 games because they've already announced some of the games scheduled for there, and then they'll have 7:30 as well. So they feel like maybe that noon chunk, that prime time spot that they typically have at noon, is going to get eaten up by ESPN. So they're trying to make it up in the aggregate. I
think this is far more to do, and we're going to see this across all sports, particularly with the game of football. This has much more to do with linear television leaning on streaming rights of games far more than they ever have before. They are trying to get as many of these sports broadcasts on weeknights and just buy up as many different days of the week as they possibly can. No different than the NFL putting 2 games on Christmas this year. Do you know what day Christmas lies and falls this year?
No.
It's on a Wednesday. Why are we playing NFL football games on a Wednesday? Well, because they can. They don't care about player safety. They don't give a shit. All they care about is getting as many different pieces of merchandise on the shelves as they possibly can. And when we have all of these games stacked on Saturday, it would behoove us to slide a couple of them in on Friday, because now we expand our merchandise. Now we have games on Saturday, Friday, Wednesday night Maction, or whenever Maction's on nowadays. We might sneak a Monday night game in there, and hey, we got all of Saturday booked as well. This is far more about let's get as many weekdays and as many opportunities to garner everyone's attention as possible.
I guess now obviously they'll be scheduled already for this year, but usually, from what I know, you might get a decent game on Thursdays. Usually, there might be some type of conference game that might be worth a dang watching on a Thursday night. But even then, Thursday night football for the NFL is typically on. That's what typically everybody is watching. But there's really not many good games.
Was the best Thursday night game last year Florida, Utah to open the year?
Maybe. Yeah, probably.
You're right. It's not always a tremendous slate. Now, occasionally we'll get like a 25-20 matchup on a Thursday night.
I guess, but still.
And I used to rock with the Pac-12 after dark on a Friday night.
Yeah.
When I was in college and I was traveling. So I would be traveling and we'd be stuck in a hotel room in bumfrick nowhere, Mississippi, and all of a sudden Washington State and Oregon are getting after it at 11 o'clock. And I'm like, you know what? Breakfast isn't until 9 tomorrow morning. Let's sit up here and watch Washington State. And that's about the only time I cared about these Friday night games.
Yeah, I think the only time I ever watched them is if we were traveling to an away game this last season and we just had it on the TV, or we were watching Colorado Stanford or whatever. Like, those are the only times where I'm watching college football on a Friday, because again, like, it's either high school football or something else is going on.
Chat caught me in a CTE moment. Linear television leaning on streaming rights of games. Brooks, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, streaming found its way in there somehow. Linear television leaning on the rights to sporting events and games right now it's basically their whole business model, because all of new TV series, all of series television, almost all of that's being created by streaming companies right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look on any streaming platform you have right now. Netflix is starting to put sports in there. Disney Plus now has an ESPN tab. Like, every single thing that you're purchasing, I mean, there's some type of sports tab or live TV tab or anything. So
it's getting pretty nuts. Continuing our television conversation for the last bit right here. I think it is kind of cool that ESPN's now the sole host of all SEC football games. And it's cool for this purpose, right? I think SEC team or SEC fan bases for a very long time have been very frustrated about it being Sunday before you go, to Athens to watch Georgia versus Ole Miss. And you don't know if that game's going to be at noon. You don't know if that game's going to be at 3:30. You don't know if that game's going to be primetime 7:30 under the lights. You don't know when, where, how you're supposed to be somewhere until 6 days before the game. They announce it Sunday afternoon, Monday afternoon, right? And going into the next week, hey, here's the slate of the games. Here's when you're going to play. That's always been a really big point of contention for SEC fans, because if you're going to games, you don't know when or where you're supposed to be there. Well, now that ESPN is the only host of all these things, whether it be ESPN 1 or 2, or whether it be the SEC Network, or whether it be ABC, or whichever one of the channels that Disney owns, they're all under one roof now. So they can look at it a week out or 2 weeks out and give you the flexed schedule before you have to wait on CBS to actually give you their game.
Yeah, I mean, really the only time with CBS that you really knew when a game was going to be, like, you knew certain matchups were always going to be in that 3:30.
Florida's always going to be at 3:30. The SEC Championship game is always going to be at 3:30.
Shoot, that one's at 4:30. It's not even at 3:30.
You're right.
But yeah, like Auburn, Alabama, that one's always going to be at 3:30. Like, your big rivalries, you always knew when those were going to be. But outside of that, it was, we don't know what channel we're going to be on. Like, we might even be on ESPN this week, or SEC Network this week, or we might be on ESPN Plus this week. Where it's now, you might be on ESPN Plus or SEC Network. But you're right, it being under the same umbrella provides some continuity with it and some reassurance with everything.
You thought people, got after ESPN for SEC bias before? Whew. Oh, buddy. This is how this got brought to my attention. There was an article that said, quote, Paul Feinbaum hopes that SEC and ESPN relationship creates more fair coverage on the conference. And I'm like, huh? Y'all don't think ESPN or ESPN been giving SEC the fair shake over the last 10 years? They've probably been giving them a little bit too much of a fair shake over the last 10 years. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good that we're getting to a point where we're having kind of pockets and isolations of involvement, right? Except for now the Big Ten has this split where some of the games will be on Fox and some of the games will be on CBS. We might need to have Gary D back on to talk to our boy Gary about his thoughts on the Big Ten and CBS.
Someone apparently started a rumor last week that he was going to leave CBS and go join ABC. But I think it just ended up being a rumor. I think it's just one of those message board rumors.
Should we text him and get the down low? Like, yo, Gary, heard you about to bail on that CBS contract. You're not out here trying to call Big Ten games. Can't live up to the Gus Johnson hype.
The SEC crack hits hard, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. It just means more, the addictions down here. Bo Nix would agree. Bo Nix would agree. Yeah. Bo Nix would tell you that there's an unhealthy addiction to football here in the South.
Jeez, I forgot about those.
Do you think Auburn fans have a little bit of disdain now for Bo Nix?
I mean, it's hard.
I know we're off topic here, but
it's hard not to when your father played at Auburn and you start your career at Auburn. You were a legacy, and it seemed like you were going to finish your career there. And I think especially too, like, even though it worked out better for Bo to go to Oregon and he ended up having a better career, and I think it was a better option for him to move on and go to a place like Oregon, it's hard not to feel some type of way and some type of disdain for that player when they go and do better things at Oregon and feels like you kind of get left behind and you kind of torture legacy a little bit.
And then he goes on Ryan Russillo's podcast and tells you that you're a self-obsessive ex. You know, you're the crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
A superhero that's going to throw a shark through your window.
Yeah. SEC fans in general don't take things very well. Comments like that, telling them that their unhealthy obsession with college football and having a former player say that about them, definitely not going to go over well.
The shark joke was such a small audience-based joke. Have you seen My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? No. Or My Super Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
I have not.
It's the premise of Luke Wilson is dating a superhero and doesn't know it, and then breaks up with her and doesn't find out that she's a superhero until after he breaks up with her. And then she uses her superhero powers to torture him. One of which is throwing a great white shark into his hotel. Yeah, you should take a look at it. It's a pretty good movie. Not really. All right, so there's some new signing windows. There's actual news here, not just comments about news. We're getting them. They're coming. That's how you read it.
Yeah.
This is already a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, here's how this is going to work. Right now, there is a quote unquote early signing window in December. I think that's December 16th this year. Then there is a quote unquote traditional signing window in February. Well, starting in June of 2025, that is probably going to be no longer. About an 85% chance, I would say, that this happens. So here's what's now going to happen. Starting in June of 2025, there will be a midsummer signing period. So you can now sign your national letter of intent in June before your senior season. Okay, solidify your spot on that roster and in that upcoming class, and then continue to play out your senior year and then be done. Then there will be a now traditional signing window in December of early December prior to the transfer portal window opening. So here's how this works, right? We're going to have a June signing window. We're going to have a December 2nd, December 1st signing window. And then we're going to have transfer portal windows mid-December, and we'll have another transfer portal window in May or in April, like we do now. Okay, so that's kind of how it's going to happen. High school, transfer. That's the new kind of calendar, if you will. Southeastern Conference just settled.
Yeah, so I saw something we're all 5 now.
That's everybody, as we predicted. Before our show ends Thursday night, college football will have blown up. And that's where we are. College football has now officially blown up. What you thought it was, it is no longer. All right, so let's continue to talk about these signing windows. We'll get to this in just a second because that's done. That's finito, out. That is the collective statement. That is a letterhead from the SEC with all 4 Power 4 conference label. Actually, 5. Pac-12 made it.
Yep.
All 5 conferences on that label right there. That's done. Let's go ahead and read this. The 5 autonomy conferences and the NCAA agreeing to settlement terms is an important step in the continuing of reform of college sports that will provide benefits to student athletes and provide clarity in college athletics across all divisions for years to come. The settlement is also a roadmap for college sports leaders and Congress to ensure this uniquely American institution can continue to provide unmatched opportunities for millions of students. All Division I made today's progress possible, and we all have work to do to implement the terms and of the agreement as the legal process continues. We look forward to working with our various student athlete leadership groups to write the next chapter of college sports. Long story short, revenue models coming, revenue sharing models coming. They got to figure out all the minute details. But I think based off that letterhead and those statements, I think the whole idea of it blowing up entirely and private equity getting involved and maybe that Saudi money coming over here and basically buying college football and taking it off into its own little hemisphere, I don't think that's going to happen. Also, the mentioning of Congress in that statement makes me feel really, really good because like we told you last night, the odds are that them getting rid of all of their antitrust lawsuit violations and all their antitrust violations, I should say, is probably going to open the doors to the government being willing to help them and give them some type of nationwide sanctions. So I'm going to give a little golf clap to all of those people because I think that rectified a really scary situation. It seems like in the best way possible. So we'll find out a little bit more later.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is honestly the best possible outcome you could have had like 6 months ago when this was becoming an ongoing discussion of if the NCAA officially dissolves itself and it is no longer attached to college football and all these antitrust lawsuits and everything. Like, I can remember last year feeling very uncertain about where college football was going. There were so many questions, and I was very worried that the product that I loved and enjoyed during the falls was going to turn into something that I was very unfamiliar with and something that I couldn't really attach myself to or feel connected with anymore. So I think this is the best possible outcome for both parties.
I think the last thing we wanted is a semi-pro league.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we wanted. And it looks like with this, there's still going to be a direct line of, what do you call it? When you're associated, a direct line of association between college football and their universities that they play for. Mm-hmm. And because I think we were going to get to a point where football looked like it was about to separate entirely. And then me and you got to have the discussion as a player and you being a coach of, you think I'm going to class. That shit's hilarious, bro. Mm-hmm. Get that out of here. I think we're going to avoid that based off this today. So that's good news there. Back to these changing of signing windows. By June of 2025, this is important. By June of 2025, the class of 2026 prospects will be able to sign their national letter of intent. Now, what does this mean? There are two really big questions that you should be asking right now. One, high school football coaches around every state, high school football coaches around this country are probably shitting a brick because their best football players are going to have signed their future to where they're playing before their last year of high school football. So a lot of these guys are going to be like, oh my God, or my guy's going to play. Now, Kirby, I don't know how other coaches felt about this. Kirby has addressed this differently. Kirby was asked about this change in signing windows during the season, and he basically said, hey, you high school coaches, if y'all are afraid that these kids are going to quit their senior years, guess what? I'm afraid of it too, and I ain't taking that kid. If a kid that is committed to me forgoes his senior year because he signed some letter of intent in June, guess what? I ain't taking him. He ain't coming to play for me. Now, he signed his letter of intent, so that shit sounds sweet. He's already coming to your program, buddy. He's already locked in. So, yeah, it sounds good, but it will be made, I'm sure, with a strong message at some of these programs. If you don't play your high school senior season, you're not playing here. Some coaches will say that. However, some of these college coaches probably feel differently. Some of these college football coaches, like, I don't know. I'm gonna say this because I don't know for a fact. But I got a good feeling that Ryan Day during the COVID year basically looked at that as an opportunity for his entire 2021 class to get in here injury-free, okay? And I don't know how it did everywhere else, but I know Jordan Hancock set out his senior year at North Gwinnett, and I know he was not, I'm not going to say discouraged to do so by Ohio State. You see what I'm saying? There are some programs that are going to look at this as an opportunity for their guys to come in really, really healthy and basically pull a Marvin Harrison Jr. via the NFL Combine practice and just be like, I'm going to practice football and I'm going to come to college really, really healthy where I'm getting $250,000 next year. So that is going to open up an opportunity or a potential hazard, I should say, to this ruling. The other fear of this June signing window, right, is going to be this one right here. Johnny, you sign at the University of Georgia and then something happens. Kirby Smart's no longer there. What do you do? Because you're already locked in. Do you get out of your LOI? That's a whole nother discussion. And this discussion, some people say, well, this happens all the time. Kids sign in December, coach leaves for a job in January. That kid's already enrolled, guys. That's a different story. That kid's already on campus. You see what I'm saying? So this is a totally different avenue where you can sign in June, whole freaking football program could go to shit. You signed a Billy Napier in June of this year. He's fired in October. What happens to your LOI? That is certainly something they've got to figure out in this as well. You would imagine they get the rights to get out of that, I would imagine.
Yeah, you would think they'd make some type of exception for something like that. It seems that they've already have those things implemented into college football, and they have those types of exceptions with transfer portal and things like that as well. So I would imagine that there is a rule. I know what you're peeking at, I believe, in the comment section.
I don't think this is true, but if it is, we're gonna first call child services, and then after that, we're gonna send you a certificate of ball knowing. This comes from McConkey on a Donkey. My second daughter was born yesterday. I named her Chooch. I hope she's got a 1%er, bro. You can't be naming the daughter Chooch unless she got that 1% on that thing.
Yeah, you're putting some heavy expectations on her.
By the way, you have no idea. You have no idea how many people think that shirt says Cooch.
Oh, dude. I was sitting down in a Mexican restaurant the other day. I don't know what he thought it said, but he came up to me and was ready to get excited about the shirt.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, I thought that said something else. And I was like, yeah. Nah.
I had that one too. I had a random person. I walked by and they say, I love your shirt, bro. And I looked down. I was like, yeah, it definitely doesn't say what you think it says. By the way, why would 2% Cooch be a funny thing to put on your shirt anyways? Yeah. The proper reaction to that shirt is, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. If you ask me that, that's a conversation. That's the icebreaker. It's the whole reason I got the thing on, right? It's an icebreaker as I about ruin a multi-$100 lab over here with a water glass. But nonetheless, it's why I'm wearing the shirt so you can ask. But it definitely does not say Cooch on it.
Yeah, only downfall.
Only downfall.
That's the only one.
All right. Where were we at?
I was saying how there's already rules implemented for for coaches leaving and players being able to get out of things and into the transfer portal and whatnot. One thing that I will say about this, an earlier signing day, is it makes these summer official visits mean that much more, because when all these kids are coming into June, they're visiting schools and they set these dates and whatnot. It really heightens the importance of those, because if this player wants to go ahead and lock it down, and these commitments in summer, I think it makes them feel more valuable and more committable, and for the fan bases at least. But I think it's a good thing that these, there's definitely some players that probably would already love to be signed with their programs and already have a done deal because they already feel that it's a done deal anyway. So I think it's great for the college football calendar. And I think there also was mentioning of the entire month of July would become a dead period, correct? Period,
which, it's a Fugazi reporting. They already get June 24th to July 24th off.
Yeah.
There's already a full month of dead.
So they just want the 7 extra days or whatever?
No, it's not even 7 extra days. They get a full month now. June 24th to July 24th.
They just want it all in July.
Yeah. They just want to squeeze July so they can put it into a press release. That's why you got to read.
Yeah.
That's why reading's important. Even though I wasn't a reader before I became a journalist. So I get it. Yeah. I definitely get it. Even though I wouldn't classify myself much so as a journalist anymore. All right, so back to this. I'm all for protecting the spots of high school kids. I think you mentioned that, right? This whole idea that National Signing Day is after the portal window right now is preposterous, because 17-year-old Jimmy's getting screwed out of a scally left and right now because, hey, why would I take this high school kid who's got to come in here, learn the system, learn how to play college football, and, oh, by the way, he's got to put 15 pounds on. Hey, this backup from Alabama just hit the portal. Why don't we just take this kid? Because all I got to do with him is teach him our system. He knows everything else. He's already made the quote-unquote transition into college football. Why not just take this guy? That's happening all over the place at this time of the year, where guys go up, or they might wake up a week before National Signing Day, and the school they are set to sign with in a week calls them and says, hey, Bobby, got no spot left anymore because so-and-so at such and such school fitting to hit that portal.
Well, you have to, even think of Tyler Barron committing to Miami right now. There's examples of they have a redshirt senior transfer on their roster right now. Well, he just got bumped back a spot because Tyler Barron is now on the roster. You presume that he will be the starting edge rusher over there for them. And there's other there's a redshirt freshman also playing in that position for Miami. These kids get impacted because of even the spring transfer portal, because even if you sign in December and this roster's clear, you still have to worry about the potential of spring transfer portal window as well.
I love the idea of people getting that alert for the first time. And it's what? Massive settlement? They agreed to it? College football is changing forever? What does this mean? And people on our network probably been like, dude, he's talking about this again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just the dichotomy of those two things is funny to me. Where were we at? We were talking about this roster or portal window and time window change. I think that's all fine and good. I don't mind the June window. I would put in some type of stipulation of You can't just opt out of your senior year of high school football. I think that's bad for the overall product.
So now, like, when this revenue sharing comes, and maybe you can get into these contracts, like, could you maybe go ahead and have them get into these contracts?
In the state of Missouri, you can.
Like, you have to play your high school senior season?
I mean, you're talking about putting it in their college contracts? Yeah, I'm sure you could. Because nowadays, I would imagine once revenue sharing starts by the fall of, I think, 2025, they're going to try to start this up.
Yeah.
You would imagine when you sign your letter of intent, you're also signing your collectively bargained agreement or your contract or whatever it is that gives you revenue sharing. You would imagine that happens with the same documents. So, or maybe you have to delay that until you get onto campus and enroll into school. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work, but at some of these schools, I mean, with the way that NIL works currently, at least for the next 12 months, the state of Missouri can pay a high school kid as long as he's committed to Mizzou. He didn't even have to sign. Just commit. Just commit to us and we'll pay you money. Think about that. That's what's going on right now.
That sounds like a bad business model.
It sounds like a bad business model. Also sounds like the whole purpose of needing some enforcement on this bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, hey, this state's got this one set of rules. Hey, in Texas, you can basically run it like a shell corporation. Not basically, you can. You can run it like a shell corporation. In Florida, you can just do whatever the hell you want. In Tennessee, you know what I'm saying? Like, woo. So that's the whole purpose. One of the main purposes of getting some type of regulation here on these forefronts. All right. So there we go with that right there. Dude, expectations. I want to talk about this because this is wild to me. And this is a byproduct of the college football expansion, right? Moving to 12. But expectations are changing because of this college football expansion. We are, just for example, okay, I was listening to, I saw the clip of Hugh Freeze on The Next Round, I think is what it's called. It's an Alabama-based kind of radio station and content production unit and team. And they had Hugh at the SEC coaches golf tournament, had him on the show. And they were asking him kind of like, what are your expectations for this season? And it is a college football playoff expectations. Is that reasonable? And Hugh has to go through this whole rigmarole about how they're just not close enough. They're not quite there. They're not quite there. And then the host of the show looks at him in the face and goes, I expect you to win 10 games and be a college football playoff team this year. What? People pay you money to give sports opinions, and you got that one. That's a really big opinion. I like that opinion. That's a hot take someone call. But that's a dude on a radio station talking like legitimately. What do you think their fan base is out here thinking? I'm sure their fan base has college football playoff expectations. And that's absurd to me. Why is that absurd? Well, we are 14 months removed from Brian Harsin getting shit canned out at that joint. We are 6 months. We're not even 6 months. We're 5 months removed from Auburn wrapping up a 6-7 season in which their offense finished 74th in total points scored. They had 3 SEC wins last year, guys. 3. They won 6 games. They had 3 conference wins. What were those conference wins? They beat Vandy, Mississippi State, and they beat Arkansas. There's some dogs in that list, right? They had an 18-point loss to Maryland last year, a 500 Big Ten team. They had a 21-point loss at home to New Mexico State that everybody laughed about. We all know that. They had a 30-point loss on the schedule to LSU last year. They finished 6th in the West, not in the SEC, finished 6th in the West last year. And Auburn, after that season, apparently has playoff expectations. What? How? What? I know Hugh Freeze is recruited really, really well. But because the schedule's easy and they take the top 11 teams, y'all got playoff expectations? Jay Will, if Auburn has playoff expectations, everybody in the sport in Power 4 should have playoff expectations.
Yeah, the entire SEC might as well just say that we expect to be one of the top 12 teams this year. And especially for Auburn, that's such a bad example of someone that should be wanting playoff aspirations this year because they were very inconsistent last year. You need consistency to be able to reach the college football playoff. And also, like, there's articles right now going about how Auburn really didn't utilize the transfer portal as much as many would have hoped. And that's not a shot at Hugh Freeze and Auburn.
That's based solely off the fact that they did not take a quarterback.
Exactly.
That's it.
And Hugh Freeze has addressed that and explained why they haven't done that because even he, like he mentioned in the radio show, he does not feel like this team is ready to compete for a national title. So, like, if your head coach is saying it, I don't know what other signs you need to know as a fan base to kind of realize what your expectations should be this season. And I understand that opening up to 12 does create more opportunity for 8 other teams, really 7 other teams to get into this playoff, but it really doesn't open it up that much.
I mean, it's funny because we're sitting here talking about these expectations. It's not just Auburn. There are other fan bases that have extrapolated, hey, we're a top 25 program. That means we have a chance every year. No, not really. Not really. It does not every single year. It might mean that you might be able to band it up every once in a while and compete for a top 11 spot. But Auburn is one of these teams that when it's ran right, when it's built right, they do and will have these perennial expectations. And by the way, their coach has already had to throw the water on all these fires of expectations. Not only on this radio show, every time he gets in front of the media, he's like, we are really young. We are really young. We're going to play young people this year. We're young. We're young. We're young. We're young. Every time a coach tells you he's young, he's buying a loss. See what I'm saying? He's buying a loss without the blowback. That's what he is doing. Every time he says that, he is hoping that your expectations just go just a little bit, right? So I wonder what other coaches do you think are having to tell their fan base, like, hey, guys, easy. We're not there. We're not there, and we might not be there every year.
Wisconsin might be one of these, in my opinion. Yeah. Luke Fickell. I mean, he's in a very similar situation with Hugh Freeze in the sense of this program and this fan base already have high expectations, and they're just itching to get back to being competitive and being one of these bigger teams, especially in the Big Ten. But it still feels like it's pretty distant from getting to that point. But the fan base as a whole, there feels like there's this expectation that success needs to happen right now and right this second, especially with the 12-team playoff, where probably should be spaced out just a little bit more.
Wisconsin's a good call. Penn State is going to feel this way.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm with you. I'm probably with you. You should be a top 11 team every year. So we're there. Who's irrationally here? Maybe like a USC football fan right now? Do you think they're irrational to believe that they should be a perennial top 11 program?
I don't know. It's so hard to get a feel for that fan base and just that program overall, because even when they had Caleb Williams, like over the last 2 years, it didn't feel like that they were like national title, like that's what we're doing this season. Maybe the media pumped that in a little bit, but it never felt like the program as a whole was like pushing for that or really
2 years. The 2022 season, they were that.
Yeah.
2022 going into that year, everybody's like, ooh, maybe USC. And even late in the year, I think they lost to Utah twice to get kicked out of the playoffs. So they were in this range. Now with Miller Moss, I don't know.
Yeah.
But their football program and their fan base probably expect that to be the case. I guess what I'm trying to do is find out where this line of demarcation is of, you're right, fan base. You should expect to be in the top 11 every year. And if you go 2 or 3 years without being there, fire the coach because he's not the one. So where is this line? I think the line would be like USC, yes. UCLA, no. Okay. Ole Miss, probably. Mississippi State, no. Kentucky, no. Right? Florida, yes. Florida State, yes. Miami, yes. Right?
Yeah. What about a team like UNC? Because I could see them.
No.
I could see them. I could see their fan base thinking like, well, we've had this great run of quarterbacks over the last 5 or 6 years, and great quarterback play translates into you being a playoff team and potentially like the ACC being down a little bit. Like if we finally cash in on one of these years, then maybe we could be one of these playoff teams. But they're probably too worried about basketball anyway.
Cash in on one of these years. Yeah. That's the category that all these delusional groups fit in. South Carolina, you're in this. South Carolina, you're right here. Maryland, you're right here. Kentucky, you're right here. Y'all just got to band it together once. That's it. And I think this is great for these programs, honestly, this expansion, right? Because if you're old dipshit that's a Mississippi State fan, who's old buddy? The loudmouth MF. No, he is definitely not a Mississippi State fan. That guy. All right, that dummy. All right, if you're one of these guys, you don't have to sit around and pray to the Mississippi State football gods that Dak Prescott's rebirthed. That's not what you have to do. You just have to pray that you could be elite on one side of the football, that you could junk your way to a 10-2 schedule in the SEC and then just sneak in. All right, you got to do that once every 10, 12 years. Now, that would be awesome. I mean, that 1 year you get that, oh my God, you feel like you're on heroin. All right, so it will be epic that one time, and then the rest you'll go through the withdrawals like you always do. All right, but those are those groups of teams. I'm still trying to find my way back into these. Who should have LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, What about Tennessee? Where's Tennessee? Because those schools I just rattled off in the SEC, you bet your ass. If you go 2 or 3 years without being in a playoff, you're fired nowadays. Brett Venables, I'm looking at you. If you go 2 more years without a college football playoff appearance, he's probably cooked, right?
Would you say it's better that Josh Heupel didn't make the college football playoff in 2022? Because then there would kind of be this expectation of like, we did it in the 14 playoff. We should be that every single year now.
I think his biggest crutch or excuse, like viable excuse, was Hendon Hooker blowing his knee out.
Yeah.
Because if he just loses 2 games in that year and just gets blown out by South Carolina with a healthy Hendon Hooker, and everybody's like, what? Then he really gets looked ugly upon. But since his starting quarterback got hurt, I think he gets automatically a free pass. I don't think he has to ask for one. But yeah, he's probably, with the way that they spend money at Spire right now and the way that fan base spends money currently under the current statutes of college football, probably is under a little bit more pressure than he normally would be.
Yeah, I mean,
but maybe that fan base is that. That fan base might just expect that.
I think they do.
Yeah.
I think that while there's no more divisions, I think Auburn and Tennessee, those 2 fan bases are just kind of grouped together in the same line of thinking of every year is the year that we're going to get back on top and get back to where we think we should be.
Utah, where are they at in this?
Oh, they got to be. You got to make the playoff,
Annual?
Right? I think so. I think
let's stay Big 12 team because I'm with you. We can keep it short there. What about Oklahoma State? We got to put it together. Just one bunch.
I think it is. We got to put it together because there was 1 year in the college football playoff where you put it together. You just didn't deliver in the Big 12 championship game. You were like a half a yard short or whatever, making a college football playoff. And that was a year where you put it together. You had Spencer Sanders. You had the running back that I'm drawing a blank on. That was really good. You had it that 1 year. Outside of that, Oklahoma State haven't really been in the mix a whole lot.
That one really good running back was from Parkview too. I should know his name. They're closer to Utah out there in the Big 12 than they are Baylor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Baylor somehow, whether it be Matt Rule or whether it be through, definitely proven hiding some scandals under the Bryles regime. You should look it up. It's pretty ugly. You give me a head nod there. I see that. Yeah, it's pretty ugly what was going on out there at Baylor during their winning regime under Bryles.
Yeah.
But anyways, they seem to kind of be one of these, we just got to do what we got to do to get one good team programs. Maybe that's just all of the Texas programs, except for the big one, the Big 2. Where's Texas A&M on this?
Ooh. Right now, I'm saying don't have these expectations.
But when you're out here spending more money than everybody else, you better expect it.
Absolutely. Under Jimbo Fisher, that would have been fair to have those expectations. It would have been fair to say we should be a top 12 team with the roster we just recruited. I think where we can maybe really draw the line, which actually I'll say it anyways. I think where we can maybe draw the line is like, what about an Iowa State in the Big 12? Because for me, it's so funny because like Iowa State is always one of these teams that is tabbed as this team that you need to look out for in the Big 12. But if you go back and look over since 2017, they've won 7 or more games, no more than 8 since 2000. So they've done that 6 times.
Ooh, how's that happen?
I don't know, but every single year I feel like I'm getting pumped in this. Oh, might be a playoff team. This was when it was 4. It's not even this year when it's 12. But everybody feels like that. Matt Campbell, Iowa State, the Cyclones, got to watch out for them. I think that's a team that definitely, and I think that maybe that's where the line is drawn for the Big 12. Or like if you're in Iowa State range, don't be expecting playoffs.
Man, all right, you ready? Yeah. Jealousy right there on my forehead. Okay, you know what's coming. If you want to know how big of a show Josh Pate has, that is the testament right there. People think Iowa State's a good football program, like a perennial, a fringe playoff. Maybe you said 7-6 the last 6 years. Know what you just said?
Yeah, basically
7-6 the last 6 years,
or worse.
They've been picked to win the damn playoff by people or get into it. Like, yeah, that just shows you how big that Joker's show is. That people think Iowa State is good because he thinks they are.
Have not won more than 8 games over the since 2017. Have not reached a 9-win season, not even a 10-win season.
Love it.
Barely bowl eligible.
And just like beating teams they shouldn't, losing to teams they shouldn't too.
Yeah.
Like catching an L to Kansas the week after beating Oklahoma. What? Matt Campbell, baby. Turned down $40 million from the Detroit Lions, I believe it was. I think they were going to give that Joker $9 million a year a couple years back.
I think the Lions chose the right Campbell anyways.
Oh, they did. They did. He did not. No. That should have got his butt up out there. Again, jealousy.
Yeah.
Just write big letters across this fat forehead every time I talk about that joker. So y'all just don't say I'm hating. I already told you I'm hating right here. Where are we going next? Speeding.
Ooh.
Speeding, man. Speeding is a real problem. Okay. I'm going to be quick because I don't even know how to talk about this without talking about it. So we're just going to talk about it. Obviously, the very well-known incident of speeding in college football in the last 2 years was the University of Georgia. Okay. Two members of the football program, a player and a personnel staff, are dead. Other football people involved. We all know the story. It's been very well documented and well covered, almost too well covered. Anyways, so there's that. And then I don't know if everybody knows this, but this January, or maybe it was in February, there were 3 North Carolina football players involved in a high-speed incident and a high-speed accident that resulted in the death of a student. Those 3 football players practiced and participated this spring. They are actively in court for misdemeanors. Okay, they're still on the roster. It has not been talked about. There was a Florida player last night, or that was just released out of bond after spending 3 days in jail in Monroe County for traveling 150 miles per hour with his lights off on 75, getting chased down by GSP, okay? Because he had weed in the car. Speeding is a real problem across every single one of these college football programs. I would imagine there's incidents everywhere. Okay, so I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do about it other than to just say, this ain't stopping. Ain't nobody doing nothing about it. Ain't nobody taking keys. Ain't nobody changing the cars the kids are driving. It's nowhere to be found. Okay, so do you have any ideas on how to stop this shit from happening? Because people have already died. So don't tell me somebody's teammates got to die, because people's teammates have died and ain't shit changed. So what are we going to do?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think it's, I genuinely just don't know anymore. I couldn't even give you a solution other than you've tried multiple things, other than maybe but even that's not good. I'm just going to stay quiet on that.
And here's what can't be the solution. And I know it's part of the problem, but it can't be the only, let's just blame it on that and let's move on. Stop just telling me that kids are driving fast. Oh, this is what happens when you give young people money. Kinda, but can we actually do something? As he says, he has no answer. He asked for one. I'm sorry, I don't have a real answer to it. I just want to tell everybody that it's happening, and there's definitely a problem going on. Real quick, Michigan offered Jim Harbaugh an $11 million annual contract, basically in perpetuity, Jonathan, and was going to give him escalating contracts based off performance. The kicker, however, in this contract was basically a clause that was going to allow them to wipe their hands of the quote-unquote second NCAA investigation, because the first one culminated and they found out the show cause orders that everybody was getting except for one unnamed coach that did not agree to go along with the NCAA investigation for the hamburger incident. From 3 years ago, they gave 7 coaches show cause orders for illegally buying a hamburger. They ain't figured out what they're going to do on the sign stealing thing yet. And the whole purpose of this contract was basically, hey, we'll give you whatever you want, but you're going to give us protection on whatever the hell you did in this sign stealing investigation. His quote in this was, I just want to be happy. And I guess being happy is in LA, living in an RV.
Not a bad life to live, I suppose.
Coaching Justin Herbert, it sure as shit ain't.
No doubt about it. Do you think that he... Obviously, I think more so about this now because he had to have known what was about to happen around the corner of college football. And he probably kind of figured that maybe he would get scathed by this and not have to worry about it. But to me, it just screams that he was ready to move on from Michigan and he was ready to be in the NFL anyways, because, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. No.
And I'll be very interested in 8 years from now when the NCAA actually does bring down something on this sign stealing investigation. What actually happens is it's the closest thing to cheating I've seen in college football.
Yeah.
In my lifetime.
Yeah.
To me, player acquisition is not cheating. That's not cheating the on-field product. You still got to take that 5-star that you illegally purchased and make him a good player on Saturday. Still got to do it. The closest thing we've seen to changing scores via illegally cheating is this. They were changing the outcome of individual plays by letting the people on the field know what is coming.
The only other thing that I could maybe even think of, and this one's even a stretch a little bit, is when Clemson was being accused of the opioids and the Ostarine. Wasn't that what it was called? Oh,
so steroids?
Yeah,
basically performance enhancers.
Yeah.
Still gotta line up and play football, even though you're on the sauce. All right. And by the way, my dad said the theory that everybody's on the sauce. Like they're all on, and you might as well be. When they fine tuning your ass like they are nowadays in college football, you might as well be on the juice. All right, we got a whole nother hour coming up to you, and it is our local hour. We'll see you in about 45 seconds. I'm gonna get some water, maybe go to the bathroom.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grab some tape.
And what else are they doing?
They're doing
anything to baseball?
Yeah, the baseball field. I know the baseball team is moving to the third base dugout, and then they're also putting in like this. I can't remember the name for it, but it's like a corridor area where people can hang out on the third base foul line, where there usually is the visiting like stadium bleachers.
A fanplex.
Yeah, basically. So they're renovating that completely, and it's going to be like a nice little hangout area.
So they're doing that to the baseball. They're putting a brand new scoreboard instead.
This big old screen. It is massive. Someone said it's like putting a 60-inch plasma screen TV in a trailer.
Yeah. That's a good comp. A trailer that's been there since 1934. Been a minute. This tech been sitting there. Welcome into our local hour. We do have a great one packed for you. Last hour of content here for you guys on the show, or on the network rather, this week. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And look, statistics say about 25% of y'all that watch this do not subscribe. So if that's one of you right now, just hit that button. Watch them things fly. Does it still give you fireworks when you subscribe to channels? I think it does. Find out. That would be awesome. Let's see. Let me know. Give us some feedback on that. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, firing off in the chat, all that good stuff. We're going to be talking about how the Clemson betting line continues to grow. We talked a little bit about Clemson in the national hour. Talk a little bit about it tonight here on the local hour as well. Is this the worst home slate in quite a minute at the University of Georgia in the 2024 schedule? Defensive coach just got a raise. We'll talk a little bit about that and what it means. Also have a theory about Georgia's coaching staff in general and just where they rank, or not necessarily where they rank, but them in comparison to what else is going on in the rest of the college football world right now. What players need a breakout year? We'll talk about that here on the local hour. Ben Urosic film notes. Had that film study for patreon.com/Brooks Austin today. Boy, it was raw. It was dirty. It was just me up in here. It was a chew in the mouth, maybe. Okay, football language, if you like it. I think I stayed away from the MFers and the Fs, okay? Also stayed away from the GDs. But, man, we were in here yossing some football for about 25, 30 minutes today on Urosic, okay? So check that out today, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. I'll bring you the synopsis a little bit later. And, Jay Will, did you know we are 100 days from kicking off this year football season?
That's it?
But, buddy, we're almost in June. It's crazy. We're 100 days away. So we are going to talk a little bit about what we're most excited to see this fall. But first and foremost, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and giving some love to our friends over there at Prize Picks. If you ain't fiending for PP, you can't be me. All right, let's talk about it. The Clemson line. Clemson, Georgia, open up Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is the culmination of the neutral site. I guess you could call it home and home because you played one up there in Carolina Stadium, basically their home. And then you played another home and home neutral site here in Mercedes-Benz to kick off the 2024 season. It's amazing to me that was 3 years ago. That was my first thought when I wrote these notes down. I was like, damn, that game was a long time ago. Did not realize it was that fat. We're here already. This line originally opened Georgia favored 12.5 points. Jonathan, that was 3 weeks ago. It's already bumped up another full point. And I think I'll get your thoughts here in a second. My first impression was this was because just a general offseason bump and an offseason slide both ways, right? Georgia's roster this offseason, since this line opened, has obviously gotten better. You add Trevor Etienne to the roster. You add, a comparable wide receiver corpse, honestly. Like Michael Jackson could be an SEC starter. London Humphreys was an SEC starter. Colby Young could be an SEC starter at other rosters and on other rosters. You add those guys. You obviously add Xavier McLeod rather. He's a defensive starter for you. He will play starter minutes, it seems, this fall for you. So you add, and then obviously Urasek getting added to this roster as well. So it's a combination of Georgia's roster getting that much better, and I think the perception around Clemson has gotten that much worse. We saw what it's been through the portal or the lack thereof portal additions. They were a -1 this offseason in terms of roster count. That's it. They had one guy leave the program. He transferred to Colorado. He was an offensive tackle from Elka, Eagles Landing Christian Academy down in McDonough. 6'7", 300, God knows how many pounds. Huge kid. Drawing a blank on his name. But anyways, that's what happened to their roster. So they didn't really get better. And we saw what happened in the spring game. And I think national analysts and probably Vegas saw what happened in their spring game where, hey, quarterback doesn't seem like it's improved. The situation offensively has not gotten better. All right. And the defense of situation has been, hey, all those guys, all those older guys on their football roster, they're slowly starting to diminish. This is a roster that's going to have to depend on a lot of young guys this fall, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think this game is just screaming, and it smells like a week one just blowout. Like everything about
38-10.
Yeah, it does.
It reeks of 38-10.
Because, Georgia continually through the offseason, if you just do a quick college football headline search right now, it's Georgia sits at the top of the SP Plus rankings. Georgia becomes one of the top teams post-spring transfer portal. Georgia leading the way in the way too early top 25. Clemson, we'll just slap them in at 16. We'll call it a ranked game week one, but we'll feel okay to bump them out right after that as well.
Damn, that's hot. I do think it is, like I said, 38-10. The over-under currently set at 48.5. Kind of vibing out that exact 38-10 football game I just rattled off. I have a new over-under in this football game for you, though.
Ooh.
4 sacks. It's the only set-up prop line we're going to do tonight. 4 sacks in this football game for Georgia.
How many they had? Did they have 7 in 2021? Something like that. I think it's 7. I'll say yeah. I think they get to 4. Or I'll say over 4. I'll say they get to 5. Because this is one thing I know, and one thing I know about a Kirby Smart defense and Georgia's defense over the years. If they know they can get after a quarterback, they're going to get after a quarterback.
Hell yeah. And I think this Clemson offensive line might be one of the worst Power 4 offensive lines they faced this year.
Yeah.
I don't think an SEC offensive line looks this porous other than maybe Vandy. But Vandy's not on the schedule this year, right?
No.
So there's that. I don't think I think this offensive line will be more gettable for this defense when it's fully healthy to start the season, because they don't have, last year they had Mike Hill kind of bothered with a foot early on in the year. I don't think we don't know about camp yet. We got to survive. They got to survive camp. True. But going into it, they don't have like a front 6 player right now that's really struggling, except for maybe Smile Mondon. Yeah. But that's I think more preventative. It seems like that one's going to be fine.
Hoping TID gets back.
Again, preventative.
Yeah.
It took probably could have handled spring load this spring. But it's like, hey, keep it in a boot, stay off of it. Let's be 100% ready.
No doubt.
That kind of thing. So there is that. I like that. 4. I'm going to go over as well. Again, I think the offensive line at Clemson is going to be a major, major problem. And I don't think they have a weapon that scares Georgia. Last year they had Will Shipley, where they could manufacture offense with him somehow. He's at least drawing attention in the middle of the field eyes. So maybe we can, get something off of this. They don't have any of that this year for them. Their scariest potential weapon is a slot receiver currently. And hey, what can we get out of Phil Maffa? So Phil Maffa, really great college football player. He's not Will Shipley. What is the recipe for this game being close? Because I have one. I have one recipe for this game being real tight.
I would say if Georgia kind of starts the year like they did last year, where the offense is kind of stagnant to start out with, and Carson Beck and the wide receiver corps is still figuring things out a little bit, and they just can't really find that rhythm and consistency in that week one matchup, I could see it being close because Clemson does have a serviceable and a good defense to where they could maybe create some problems for you. I doubt that happens because Carson Beck is going into year 2. He is a veteran at this point. He has a lot of games under his belt. He's experienced. But if you turn the ball over in a world like that, you put the ball on the ground, like fumbles, if anything, that's typically what happens for Georgia on offense is you put the ball on the ground, like it happened in the Tennessee game a couple years ago. Things like that. It's always going to root down to turnovers and maybe like you get an explosive from Clemson on the offensive line or on the offensive side of the football.
All right, so you know how I made the joke. I'll talk about this here in just a second. Keep me tabbed here because I'm going to come back to this. Okay. We got people in the chat asking what the actual settlement means. We made a joke about how most people are probably tired of us talking about this on this network because we've done a really good job of hammering this since October. Yeah. Since October, we've been talking about this one. So someone's in the chat asking about it, and I don't necessarily have my notes right in front of me, even though I keep them all right here in this one booklet. Can't seem to get it tabbed. Nonetheless, let me run it down for you. $2.8 billion. Okay, he asked, how's this being distributed? Who's it being distributed to? It's being distributed to college football athletes that were playing revenue producing sports from the last decade. So this is dating back to 2014. I think is what this said in the documents, is what I was reading. So there's that. It's dating back. It's retribution. It's payback, okay, to those athletes during those time periods. How is this going to be paid out is the next question. That $2.8 billion. Well, 60% of it will be paid by non-Power 4 football or Division I schools, okay? So there's 300 of these Division I non-Power 4 universities, majority of those playing basketball, okay? There's only about 55 to 60 of those member schools playing Division I football that are culminating at 300 non-Power 4 schools, all right? Now, 40% of these payments will be made by the Power 4 universities. There's about 64 of those. So 40% being handled by 64 universities, 60% being handled by 300 universities. Now, of that $2.8 billion, $1.8 billion will be paid out immediately. $1 billion will be withheld from future revenue. I think I crushed that.
Wow. Good synopsis.
Yeah, he just a film guy. He just talk football. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Hope that answers some questions in a quick rundown. Does it mean it's the end of everything? No, it does not. Also, forgot to talk about revenue sharing, approximate revenues of $20 million annually. So we ran the numbers yesterday. Say Georgia, for example, Georgia would have to pay of the $1.8 billion. Hold on, how do we do? We did the 2. Basically, it comes down to $16.8 million paid out immediately for Georgia via this settlement right now. So if you're a Power 4 school, you pay 40% of the $1.8 billion. Okay, 40% of $1.8 billion is whatever, divided by 64, because you're one of 64 of that 40%. It's going to come out to about $16.8 million this year. And additionally, you have to pay out $20 million of revenue to your athletes. Now, my question at Georgia or wherever is this right here. The only revenue made at Georgia via sports is football. We all know this. Mm-hmm. But at UNC, it's basketball and football. At LSU, it's probably football and baseball. At Mississippi State, it's probably just baseball. Maybe football breaks even, depending on what their budget is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How will this $20 million annually be delved out at each individual school where revenue is coming in at a very disproportionate level at every school? That's the thing I want to know. I want to know that. I also want to know, how does this affect Title IX? I want to know that. And I also want to know, if you can't make up the budget, do you immediately get kicked out? I want to know that. If you're Vandy, you can't afford to do this. Hypothetically, I don't know their situation. They get $40 million annually from the SEC TV deal right now. It's probably going to 60 very soon. So yeah, on paper, they probably make money. But at the end of the year, do they have enough money to float a $20 million payroll? I don't know. These are the things I want to know. And these are the things that, yeah, it's all great. We settled this. Y'all ain't settled shit in terms of figuring out the actual details and the minutia of this machine. Minutia. Is that the biggest word tonight? I think it is.
I would agree.
What were we talking about? I told you to keep me tabbed.
So we were talking about, how does Clemson keep this a close game?
Defensive struggle. Got to muck this thing up. Okay, I'm talking like 10-3, like 2021. It's the only option.
Yeah.
You got to go straight back to 2021. You got to hope that defensive line is just ravenous, but it's not going to be. There's no way this offensive line from Georgia goes out and has a 6-7 sack performance in a single game. Stacey Searles will have an aneurysm on the sideline if that happens. They're just way too talented, and the system is way too predicated off the quarterback getting the ball out of their hands to think that they're going to play behind the sticks like they did when they had a statuesque JT Daniels who could not drive the ball down the field in that football game against Clemson.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I
got to grab my laptop charger.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I would agree with those things. I mean, the obvious answers are always going to be like turnovers again, but it just doesn't seem like that's a recipe because Carson Beck protects the football, and really especially to keep a game close like that for Clemson, it would be like crucial interceptions, ones that maybe you return one to the house like Georgia did in 2021 with Christopher Smith. Like those types of plays would need to happen, in my opinion, for you to keep it close. So this year, it would just have to be what's up.
My charger is cooked, son. Yeah, that's not good. I frayed right at the end. That's bad news bears, dog. It's working right now, but I'm gonna have to get on Amazon tonight and get one ordered there. So yeah, Clemson, if this game's close, it's 17-14. It's 10-6. Whatever. Yeah, that thing's fried. Oh well. Tis what it is, as the kids say. Let's go. Where are we at? Welcome in, local hour. Already did that. Is this the worst home slate? This is the worst home slate I've seen.
I don't know.
This is tough.
I think that 2022 is pretty comparable. That year was Samford, Kent State, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Georgia Tech.
One more time, run that.
Samford, Kent State, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Georgia Tech. The only game that ended up being worth a dang was Tennessee because they were ranked number one.
And that was college game day.
Yeah.
Rain. Cool game.
Yeah.
Auburn was a bore. Was that the Stetson Bennett 60-yard scramble on a draw? Yeah. That game almost felt half capacity towards the end of it. And it was like a 35-point win, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It was a blowout.
Yeah. Beat the hell out of them. That was tough. But God, it's been 3 bad years then. Holy smokes. You Georgia fans, if you bought season tickets in 2021 after the Natty, it's like, man, we want a Natty. I'm buying season tickets. This ain't never stopping. You've been seeing some dirt football games, at least matchups.
Yeah, I mean,
a couple of decent ones, but the last 3 years have been awful. You read that off. How about 2023 was yuck. Ball State, South Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Mizzou, Ole Miss. Now, those are 3 good SEC programs at the end. But you skull drug all of them except for Mizzou.
Yeah.
So, man.
You're just kind of banking on like these games turning into great games. Now, the good thing is that if you continue to hold on to your season tickets, you're going to absolutely cash out next year. Like you're going to get a major return on investment. Yeah. You'll get to see some great football games, a lot of them, a lot of really good football games, but you've definitely had a tough string of luck.
I mean, if you got really good tickets, you could probably buy a lake house off some shit you're going to pull in 2025.
Yeah.
Because you got some dudes coming in 2025. I think I wrote it down. Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, Kentucky. Those are the 4 SEC home games in 2025.
And even if Kentucky isn't worth a dang, it's still a Brock Vandagriff returns to Athens. So it's still a great headliner.
In year 2, middle of the year, I don't know the dates on that. Yeah. I would imagine it's probably going to be middle of the year. Bro, he's going to be good year 2. I don't know how good I expect Brock Vandagriff to be year 1. Year 2, he's going to be really, really good.
So the only thing that could ruin next year is if they just do them all at noon. As if they were just a bunch of nooners. That's the only reason why Georgia fans will start complaining. But even if those are noon games, still really good football games.
It ain't happening. There ain't being noon games.
I agree.
You're going to get most of those at night. But this year's kind of yucky. Tennessee Tech, Auburn, Mississippi State, Tennessee, UMass, and Georgia Tech. The random UMass in November, that'll piss you off.
Yeah.
Football season's dwindling at that point. You're clutching on as if they're pearls towards the end of the season. We're about to lose this for 7 months, and you get UMass at home at noon.
The only good news is that this year, that's not your senior night because you get Georgia Tech at home, where there's been years where your final game of the season in Sanford Stadium is UMass. Those suck. But this year, at least you get a Georgia Tech game, and while we'll see what happens with Georgia Tech, They seem to be on the up and coming. It still could be a very interesting game. Like last year was interesting. So
good point. During the drummings, you at least get to drink some alcohol at the stadium nowadays, but only if you walk to one specific area of the stadium. Correct?
I
thought it was one like concession area that was selling it.
No, they're putting in 12 refrigerators, I believe, that are going to sell alcohol. Now it's a big stadium. I don't know where the 12 are going to be. So like if you're in the nosebleeds, you might have to walk down some steps.
They got one bathroom at the southeast end, right there as you walk, that they're trying to direct you to. Bro, if everybody in the stadium had to take a piss, I think they could get in and out of that bathroom smoothly. I mean, it is so big. Mm-hmm. A big bathroom joke. Didn't think I was going to get there tonight. I was going to say something. No, I wasn't.
We did have some Georgia news happen.
What just happened?
Savon Clark committed to Toledo.
Hope he got a good coat.
Yeah.
It'll be cold. That's the one thing I don't think, Ohio State, pretty notorious for not hosting in-season OVs. Mm-hmm. They are, I shouldn't say that. January visits, they're not a big January visit school. They don't want you up on that campus in the winter at all. So, yeah, there's that. But, Georgia Tech to end the season this year ought to be fun.
Yeah.
Fun. It's not going to be great.
No.
Any of those ranked opponents, Tennessee, that'll be a ranked game. You think?
You'd think. Unless something crazy just happens.
I mean, they could very well be like 6-3 at that point.
Yeah. So.
That's not that 6-3. They would have to be like, what if they're like 4-3 at that point? They're not ranked.
They're not ranked.
No. And that's what I'm saying. That could be a possibility where Tennessee might be a 9-3 football team, but they might have to win their last 5 games to do so. Look at their schedule for me.
That's what I'm doing right now. I looked at it just the other day. Let's see. They got...
I'm trying to see what they will be by the time they get to Georgia.
I'll read them off to you until I get to Georgia. So we got Chattanooga,
win.
Dub, NC State,
win.
Kent State,
win.
Oklahoma at Norman,
loss.
Arkansas,
win.
Florida,
win.
Alabama,
loss.
Kentucky,
win.
Mississippi State,
win. That makes them 8-2. They'll be ranked.
Yeah, they should be.
Even if they were 7-3 by that point, they're ranked.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
As long as you don't slip up against one of these other teams, like unless you just get like bludgeoned by Oklahoma and then you get bludgeoned by Alabama.
They mess around and mess around, be 9-1. That's game day coming to town, right?
That's a good point.
We got fingers crossed for that one. Because
your only chance.
Bro, ain't nothing hitting the page view counter like a Lee Corso headgear pick.
Really?
My God. I've been doing this 5 years. Nothing does numbers like jerseys at the University of Georgia. If I tease or if they tease, they wearing black, oh my God. Holy hell. If y'all ever accuse me of page or what do they call it, click hunting, that's it right there. I'm click hunting on some jersey reveals for sure. And then the other one is this story. This story right here would do numbers. Lee Corso every time. Pick the dogs, didn't pick the dogs. Doesn't matter. Google all day.
What's so great about the Lee Corso headgear pick is if he picks you, then it's great. You got Lee Corso's vote and everybody's happy that Lee Corso picked you and put the Bulldog head on. But if he doesn't...
Old man don't know shit.
Yeah, old man doesn't know anything. Or then you have the crowd is like, oh, the Lee Corso curse. That means we're going to lose this game. Like there's so many different opinions about it.
The Lee Corso curse has been around forever.
Yeah.
And if he were just like 49% on his picks, it would still be a, quote, curse.
Yep.
And 49%, pretty good.
Pretty dang good.
Not bad. Should we talk about this? Should we pocket watch for a second?
Ooh.
This T-Rob raise?
Not a huge fan of pocket watching, but you know what?
Not either. $800,000, I think is what it was. $800,000 escalate. No. 1.1. 1.1 escalate. 1.2 escalating to 1.5 by the end of the contract. The contract ends in 2020, at the end of the 2026 season.
1.3.
Yeah, 1.3 escalating to 1.5 by the end of the 2026 season. All the way through 6, all the way through the summer of 27 is the deal.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good news for Georgia. That's great news for T-Rob. That's good money. Really good money. Really good money. Mm-hmm. Makes him probably the 3rd highest paid assistant at Georgia. Probably Schumann, Bobo, him. Maybe Schumann, him, Bobo, honestly. He is the co-DC. Good news is he's there through 2026 season, 2027 summer. This made me start to wonder, if you just look at their coaching staff, right? Bobo not going anywhere. Okay. Doesn't seem to be. Okay. He's already done the whole I want to be a head coach route. Already, done the OC at other places. Now he's OC at his alma mater with his best friend. Kid on the roster. Definitely not going anywhere. So there's that. He'll coach at Georgia as long as you'll have him. That's good stability. On the recruiting trail, that's uncommon stability. Yeah. Our head coach isn't leaving and our offense won't change. Are you shitting me? Like, ever? That's crazy. Like, you don't get that anywhere. So there's that. Schumann, by all accounts, I mean, he's turned down every job but a head job at this point, right? Mm-hmm. He turned down the NFL defensive coordinating job. The defending Super Bowl runner-up called him and said, will you come coach all your players that we just drafted? And he said no. So if he's going to say no to that one, I would imagine he's going to say no for a while. Alabama just got replaced, his alma mater. So it looks safe. It looks like that one's going to stick around for a little while, or at least has stuck around for a little while. Hartley looks locked in for a little while, right? Haven't seen any inclination of this guy might be in the running for an OC job. Like, I think we saw the leakage of Buster Faulkner wants to be a head coach this offseason. Buster Faulkner put his name in the hat for the Georgia State job. Did he? I don't know. Did it go out there so everybody knows he's interested in head coaching jobs? So when he damn near wins the Broyles Award again this year as Georgia Tech's offensive coordinator, he probably is in line for the next Power 4 job, wherever that's at, that comes available in December. That's how these things work. We haven't seen Hartley's name leaked out anywhere. Hell, we haven't even heard Hartley may or may not call plays at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things leak before he takes jobs. So when we start hearing leakage and tea leaves that these things are happening, then I'll come on this network and tell you, hey, watch out, Hartley might be leaving. But Hartley looks like he's pretty damn happy being the best tight ends coach in the country right here in Athens. Trey Scott probably due for a promotion at some point, but where, when, how? Like, the dude's he had 5 NFL first-round draft picks in the last couple of years. If he was going for a defensive coordinator job, he probably would have taken one.
I believe he said that if he's going to leave this program, Kirby Smart's going to have to personally escort him out.
So there you go. My point, this staff looks pretty damn locked for a while. Now, we say that, and something can happen, but like Brian McClendon was a walking wiki page. Like, you could look at that dude and be like, oh, he ain't here for long. All right. The same could be said about Fran Brown. Fran Brown, the moment he took the job, the first thing a source told me was Jimmy Sexton's his agent. He won't be here long. He's a star. This dude is a superstar. All right. So that would boom. Same thing about Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, 36-year-old defensive coordinator. If you think he's sticking around, like, no, he wants to be a head coach. All right. So we're at a different level in terms of security on the coaching staff right now, it seems.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's such and when there's so much movement with your roster and there's so much movement, it seems like with coaching staffs as well, like to have that ability, because I mean, Nick Saban said it himself of like, it got tough for me to tell kids that I was going to be sticking around, that I was going to be here throughout their entire process as a college athlete. That got tough for me. That was a big thing in recruiting. Like, for you to be able to say, like, not only is Kirby Smart going to be here, the head guy, not only am I going to be here, but your offensive coordinator or your defensive coordinator or your positions coach, they're likely going to be here for a while too. Like, that is such an advantage and such a I can't think of the word that I'm looking for right now, but it's such a service to have for these athletes.
I mean, we're like 4 or 5 years probably from Kirby being the longest tenured head coach at his current school.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a possibility of this, is all I'm saying. I mean, shit, he's almost been here a decade. This is year 9, right? This is year 9. That's a long time coaching football here, and it don't look like anybody on his staff is going anywhere anytime soon. And we didn't talk about it last night, but of course he came out and said stop bitching, moaning, and complaining about the NIL stuff. But that's good to hear. It's good to hear that he has gotten fatigued, not on the way that the world is right now, but the way that people are bitching about the way the world is. You see, that's a total difference, right? Every coach out here complaining about the way the world is. Most of those coaches are complaining because they've got fatigue. He's got fatigue on the bitching. That's good news. There was a time there where I was like, man, how long is Buddy going to coach? Because that's the question about every one of them. It should be, right? Because damn, all we hear about is a 365-day-a-year job. It's so tough. It's so tough. And he's like, shut up. Shut up. Play football. Coach football. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that we may have talked about this when you were on the trail, but me and Christian had this conversation of the fact that Kirby Smart is taking this stance of, I don't want to be the spokesperson for it, because I think a lot of people want to appoint Kirby as this, and they want to look to him because he is the king of college football. He is the best college football coach right now, so people assume that he needs to be the spokesperson for college football. The fact that he didn't take that opportunity with Paul Feinbaum to take a stance and be that type of center figure of this college football league, instead he was like, I want to quit talking about it. I don't want to be the voice for this.
Yeah,
I agree. That is very good news,
because that's what old Paul is sitting there lobbing up.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, I'm gonna try to get another SEC coach out here to bitch and moan about kids making money and leaving schools. And he turned around and said the opposite. Shut up. Both, by the way, extremely good for Paul. It's just a great teed up question right there. What's going on in the chat that's got you interested?
I was just reading the comment about Vince Dooley being there for 25 years.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just talking about longest active.
No, yeah. I knew what you were talking about.
I mean, no, this is the thing about Georgia. You can go all the way back to what, I think he got hired in the late mid 60s. Did Vince?
Yeah.
So you can go all the way back to the 60s, and you got 5 names, right? It's Dooley, it's Donnan, it's Goff, it's Richt, and it's Smart.
Yep.
You can go through. I made this joke the other day. If you want to be real about it, you can go through 5 names at Auburn in the last 5 or 10 years since they won their last national title. You can go through 5 of them. Chizik, Malzahn. If you want to be a dick and count Steele, you can do it. Harsin, and now Freeze. There's 5 since Chizik won a title. That's crazy. Like you're going back to the 60s.
Yeah,
that says a lot about Georgia football just in general.
And out of those 60 years, for the most part, for the majority of those 60 years,
competent.
Yeah, you've been competent. You've been winning games, and for the last 25 years now, you have been winning football games. Basically, a guaranteed 10-win football program.
Except for when Mark Richt, 7-5s.
Yeah,
occasionally, and then there's some UCF issues in a bowl game. Let's not talk about it. Boy, would that be hell would freeze over if Kirby Smart goes 7-6. You talking about some microphone moments? I would park my ass outside the gates at practice. Y'all wouldn't see me. I'd be out there just listening. I want to listen to his head would explode.
Oh man,
his head would come off his shoulders if they were 7-6 taking an L to UCF.
Could you imagine the press conference Kirby's we would be getting that season?
We ain't never seen loser Kirby. Early 2016.
Yeah, but even then,
it was like, we coming.
Yeah,
it was much more of a different attitude. It's not middle of the regime, buddy popping 7-5. That would be nuts. I would almost like to be in that press conference room just for a week. I don't want to be there multiple weeks. I want to be there after they take a whipping to Mississippi State by like 16.
And it's not just like we had some tough breaks on the roster this year. Like you're playing bad football. Like you're turning the ball over. You're missing tackles, missing assignments. That type of season. We don't want it, but
Bakari Rambo hitting guys 5 yards out of bounds. I want one of those.
Get you a smoke Monday on a Kirby Smart defense.
Bruh, I love Bakari Rambo. I do. Bakari, good people. But, hey, personal foul galore. A walking personal foul. It'd be like David Daniel with his walking targeting.
Oh, man.
That's bound to happen. Can't wait for it. Apparently a statement from Notre Dame. Should we read this pretentious bullshit?
Yes, please.
Oh, I can't. I bet this screams holier than thou.
Do they get a vote?
No, they got left out of the logo. I would have pissed myself if they were a Notre Dame logo at the bottom of that SEC statement. Statement from President Reverend. He got a Reverend? REV?
Yeah.
Is it Reverend?
Yeah.
John I. Jenkins, just already reeking of pretentiousness. CSC on House versus NCAA ruling. Quote, the settlement, though undesirable in many respects and promising only temporary stability, is necessary to avoid what would be the bankruptcy of college athletics. To save the great American institution of college sports, Congress must pass legislation that will preempt the current patchwork of state laws, establish that our athletes are not employees, but students seeking college degrees, and provide protection from further antitrust lawsuits that will allow colleges to make and enforce rules that will protect our student athletes and help ensure competitive equity among our teams. Just a slow clap for yours truly reading that relatively smoothly at this point with a fat tongue an hour and 40 minutes into this broadcast. Because, there's a lot of verbiage in that. Verbiage, I should say. It's an interesting quote here, particularly this last part. Congress must pass legislation that will preempt the current patchwork of state laws, establish that our athletes are not employees, but student athletes seeking college degrees. That's basically asking Congress, or here's how I think this is going to work, because I've heard some of these conversations. That sounds like they're going to ask Congress to give them an antitrust bypass that allows them to just sign off the likeness and the name, image, and likeness of the athlete for a certified amount. Okay, sign this paperwork. We take your name, image, and likeness. Here is your contract. You are not an employee. Because once you get into employees, you start getting into rights, all these other different things. These kids have to remain quote unquote independent contractors. We can't be out here putting these kids on salaries or making these kids employees, because at that point they have to become collectively bargained. So this will hopefully, what he's asking for is Congress to help them out to avoid all of the mess of collective bargaining. And by the way, if you're a college athlete, I think this behooves you. I think this is better for you than to have to think that you can collectively bargain amongst yourselves, because I'm here to tell you, your ass is going to get cooked every time. Y'all, they can't collectively bargain on the NFL level. You think you're going to do it a 9,000 member bargaining system? That's not happening.
Oh, man. You want to talk about college football having a lockout too? Oh, geez, that'd be a nightmare.
What's this word? Any word on anyone getting busted by the IRS on their NIL money yet? No, I think that's going to be... The financial advisors I talked to said that's going to be like net 36 month type stuff. You know, because the IRS, they got time. They got time to come F your life up.
No doubt.
So don't take your time on me. Enough about the raises. Breakout years. You want to do this?
Yeah,
let's do this. What players need breakout years? Now, I think we could do this two ways. The players that need them individually, like, hey, it's a bad year for you, bro, go get it. Or like Georgia needs this player to have a breakout year for Georgia's success.
What if I gave
Which way did you go?
What if I gave you one of both?
Okay, go for it.
I think Dominic Lovett is one of both of these.
Yeah, it's a bag year.
It's a bag year. And then also Georgia needs Dominic Lovett to be a breakout player this year. Not that he wasn't great for them last year, but there's another level of Dominic Lovett, and we've touched on this since the spring game.
It's called the Mizzou level.
The Mizzou level, yeah. The Missouri Dominic Lovett. That's the Dominic Lovett that Georgia needs this year. And we've talked about this since the spring game because he looked like Missouri Dominic Lovett in the spring game. If they get 15, 16, 17 games of that version of Dominic Lovett, that is so crucial for this offense, because it's great that they have these other transfer portal wide receivers, but this is a guy that Carson Beck just spent an entire season with. You're adding on another season. He's going to be a focal point of this offense. If there's anybody that I could see Bobo really feeding a lot this season from the receiver corps, it's Dominic Lovett. So I think it's crucial for this offense to really reach its full potential that Dominic Lovett is very successful.
There were like 3 or 4 times during G-Day where Mans was making the defender miss before he caught the football. That's how confident he was in his hands, or he is in his hands, I should say, where he's running a dig, and it's the balls are getting thrown right over the snap, right over the hash. Ball's on the left hash. He's coming from the right to his left. Carson throws a dot to him right on over the ball, right? And he goes to pluck this football, and before he plucks the football, before it touches his hands, he sticks his right leg in the ground, and he already is making the defender miss as he's catching the football. Jonah Aguero, sit down. We're off. Yards after the catch. And that's the difference, right? We saw some separation last year. We saw them try to get him the ball in some of these screenage and screen opportunities and stuff like that. But we did not see like dynamic plays after the catch like we did in G-Day and like we did at Missouri. So I think I'm right there with you. How about Dalen Everette? And he's tracking to do this. But if you really like go back and look at years past, Georgia has always come into the year with a returning starter that everyone knew was a dude. And then by way of the opponents attacking the other younger guy, that guy ultimately morphed into that version of that guy the next year. You see what I'm saying? Like before Kamari, there was Keeley, and everyone went after Keeley his first year, when he was starting on the other side in that Clemson game. Who was on the other side of him?
Amir Speed started out.
No, but Keeley ultimately took his role. Keeley got multiple PIs in that football game. Who was playing corner opposite of Keeley in that football game? Either way, they've always had a returning starter, and then the other dude's a young guy that's got to really earn his keep. Darian Kendrick. Darren Kendrick, a known dude, right? NFL football guy. They knew that. They didn't attack him. Look at the chat picking up on us before we move on. Good shit there, chat.
I don't know why I blanked on that.
I know why. I just didn't prepare for it, so I didn't even think about it. My brain didn't even go there. But nonetheless, you've had this kind of arc of returning dude. Okay, last year, that guy got picked on. He's going to be much better. Dalen needs to be that this year. He needs to be hey, we can't go after 6. He's gotten that much better. Everyone attacked him last year. Now he's a guy. All right, let's hunt the other group. All right, well, who's the other group? It's Daniel Harris. It's Julian Humphrey. It's Ellis Robinson. Like, make that group better because y'all are hunting them. That means 6 has been that good. If that's what we see, that means the tape has shown to opponents that Dalen Everette has become that good. You got another one?
Yeah, I think Trevor Etienne can be put into this category because he's going into this year as the first time ever as a starting running back. He was the 2 technically at Florida, but it felt like he was a starter. But I think it's pivotal that he is a breakout player for Georgia, because if he doesn't kind of live up to these expectations and he isn't this transfer portal acquisition that really pays off for you, then you're kind of left again with some questions in the running back room. We talk about how deep it is, but it's deep because of someone like Trevor Etienne. It buys you time with Branson Robinson coming back from his injury.
And Nate Frazier being a freshman.
And not just having to put Roderick Robinson at the top of the depth chart and giving him the major totes. So I think he needs a breakout year because he also is going to help open up this offense. It lets you create another level to the offensive success that Bobo can work with. So I think that he needs a breakout year just to kind of really, again, make sure that the offense gets to its full potential.
I don't know about you, but there's a direct correlation in the fatness and the width of my tongue and how many words I say in a particular 2-hour show. And I think you just got hit with a fat tongue because your workload's been doubled tonight.
That's true.
Did you get fat tongued at all last week while I was gone?
Probably.
Yeah. It happens, man. You don't know these things until you venture into these waters. You're like, shit.
Got to build up the endurance.
I can only tread water for 35 minutes? I thought I had a good 55 in me. No, it's pretty hard to tread water, you big fatty. Oscar Delp. I think for him, the NFL knows what it is. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He going to go run 4.52. Like, he is an immense athlete. I want to see the connection between he and Carson become, really, really elite. Because if there's anybody that's going to be pressing the direct middle of the field, like immediately this year, it's going to be Oscar. We'll talk about Jurasic here in just a second with the film notes that we have on him from today's film study on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. But the guy I want to see some pop from, it's got to be 4. He's shown really, really good. I want to see flashes of great because, hey, man, you got 3rd round evals right now. You got 4th round evals. If you show some pop, we might be a top 60 guy, man. Pop this year. That would be a really good thing for both you and the football team.
I think TID for me is another one of these breakout guys. I want to
see it, man.
Because it feels like it's been so close for so long, and we keep on because we know he's a good football player. He's so many flashes. I just want a full season's worth of that being replicated every single week. I know he's had some issues with injuries and whatnot, but I just want to see a full season's worth. And for him, if he has a full season's worth of just a breakout type year, and he's a big asset for Georgia on the defensive line, and he remains fully healthy, like that is a player that NFL teams are going to love. That is a player that is going to really heavily impact Georgia's defense. And I think it completely changes the defensive line for them.
I thought last year was kind of the introduction, the EP, if you will, to Dylan Bell. This could be the breakout, main album, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, this could be the one. And by the way, NFL thinks it is. Like, here's the thing about the NFL when it comes to their scouts. Their scouts probably watch more Georgia football practice than any other football program. I don't know that to be true. I think that to be true. Okay, with Atlanta being a metro hub, with the Southeast region in general being very, very important, with Georgia having won multiple national titles, with really, really Super Bowl contending organizations in the league, really investing annually, perennially into Georgia's roster, this has become a hub. Like, NFL teams hang out here. A lot of I don't talk to a ton of scouts. The 4 or 5 of them that I'm a privy to is only because they're around this place so often, right? I don't know where I was going with this, but they invest in this roster a ton, and they already know about Dylan Bell. That's what I was going with. They've been around practice. They know enough about him. They've seen him enough in practice to know, holy shit, NFL body, NFL juice. We might be Debo Samuel in this guy.
Well, I think you could see it, and not even just in Dylan Bell this year, but like ESPN saying that Raylan Wilson, breakout candidate on Georgia's defense this year. Like all the talk is about CJ Allen and Samal Mondon and the freshmen that they just brought in, but ESPN is saying this Raylan Wilson guy, that's who we're circling on this defense. Like you kind of like people are probably like, why the heck is it Raylan Wilson? And it's like, well, probably because more people watch it.
This freshman, this redshirt freshman, this rising sophomore that as a senior in high school was 23 miles an hour on a field. That guy, the 230-pound, I think he ran 10.81 at 229 pounds. His senior year in high school.
Stupid.
That guy, you think that guy might be good? Yeah, he might be. I'm with you on that one. How about Jordan Hall, Xavier McLeod, Kristen Miller? Insert not Warren Brinson or Nazir Stackhouse. One of you guys, one of you three that I just mentioned: Jordan Hall, Xavier McLeod, Kristen Miller. And I know I left somebody out, but I'm talking about those three guys. First of all, they've invested a lot of equity and time and investment into those three individuals. Jordan Hall, 5-star. Kristen Miller, borderline top 200 player. He was a top 150 player consensus by the end of it, okay? Xavier McLeod just got him to transfer from an SEC program. They have spent assets and resources on those three individuals. They have to yield results this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We got Ja Jarrett getting mentioned. I don't know if Ja's ever. I don't know. First of all, I don't know if Georgia will ever have another Jordan Davis. I don't know if that will ever exist. A 6'6", 340-pound human that truly revolutionizes y'all into a zero front defense. I think y'all are back into more of this D tackle nose tackle shade. Maybe play a true zero if we have to. But this day of you having a mountain in there that can run sideline to sideline, they just don't print those guys out every year. Like Ja might be it. He might become that. But we already knew Jordan Davis was going to be that 8 games into his freshman year. I don't know if people remember how dominant and how early on it was like, shit, what is this? Jordan Davis was. All right. Jordan Davis, by the 8th game of his freshman year, started playing. And from that point on, you average fewer than 100 yards rushing per game on your opponents. From the moment he became a starter and started playing starter minutes. Is that going to come back onto your roster? I don't know. No, probably never. I would venture more never than venture to say yes. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But anyways, I think you have to have one of these D tackles, particularly D tackles, turn into. I don't need Jordan or Jalen Carter. I don't think that, again, I don't know how often those are going to come around. But just give me flashes of something. You know what I'm saying? Give me flashes of something. That's all I need.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it is just like you really just need one of those guys, or do you think
one?
Just one,
and maybe maybe it's a combination of all three.
Yeah,
but if you get, I do think they believe they're going to get 200 snaps out of McLeod this year. They think he's going to play SEC minutes. They think he's a big body that's physical, can play good run defense, and can stand up in the SEC and punch. And that's what you got to have. So the other guys got it. Yeah, like that's great. Hell yeah, Nick Carwell. Give me Tyler Clark. Bro, I had this conversation with somebody the other day because he came out, I think it might have been Schley County, or one of his counties that I was in. I was at his high school, okay? And they were talking about some Tyler Clark. And I was like, bro, people sleep on Tyler Clark. Mm-hmm. Tyler Clark was he was the definition of flash play. Tyler Clark was hella flash play guy. They need one of them. Get somebody mold into Tyler Clark and you'll be all right.
I believe he's still on an NFL roster. Yeah, he's with the Commanders, it looks like.
Bro, NFL dude. Showed NFL flashes, but just, couldn't put it together. Flashed so much.
Yeah, he did. That's such a good pull by Chat right there.
Good shit, Chat. You got any more? I got a couple more.
Nah, that was it for me.
Ra Thomas. I need you. I wrote him down. I put a slash, Ra/Dom.
Yeah.
Because it's money, bro. It's a bad year for both those dudes, man. You got to return to what we thought you were. Not saying that they showed signs of it last year, but man, Ra-Ra's got to have if Ra Thomas has 3 games of this stat line right here, 5 catches, 105 yards, and a tud. If he has 3 of those football games, he don't have to play another down the rest of the year. But just give me 3 of those. And, you know, if one of them happened against one of your road games, that would be ideal. Dom's got to show up every game. I think Dom in the slot has to show up every single game. The Ra-Ra's got to show up like, give me 5 for 105 twice, maybe 3 times. That would be ideal.
So like a George Pickens type season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Give me one of those. And give me 7 touches a game for Dylan. Give me 8 touches a game for Ra-Ra. Give me 15 touches a game for Etienne. Give me 10 touches a game for Rod. And let Carson just the rest. Just scatter the rest. I don't care. But these guys got to touch the ball. Did I miss anybody? I think those are the difference makers this year. Dylan, Ra-Ra, Dom, Etienne, and maybe Jurasik or Delp somewhere in there, one of the tight ends. And then in the red zone, give me some Colby Young, feature him, whatever. It don't matter if everybody on the field knows what you're doing. He's still going to go get it. Yeah. But I'm going to go get that.
It's big for both Dom and Ra-Ra because when you transfer from Missouri or Mississippi State to Georgia, that is you telling everybody, like, I know I'm better and I'm going to go to a place that is better so I can put up better numbers. Well, you actually have to put up those better numbers because I think if you don't, like if you kind of just remain stagnant or you kind of regress a little bit, then the questions may start arising of like when you go to the NFL draft of like, well, what happened when you got to a program like Georgia and these numbers didn't exactly increase? Like you didn't maybe live up to your competition. Like those are the types of questions that will start arising, in my opinion, for both of them. But I don't think that's something that Georgia fans need to fear. I think they're both going to capitalize off of their opportunity this season.
Chat said Jalen Carter is Jason Giambi from Moneyball.
Oh, create him in the aggregate.
Yeah, we don't have to replace Giambi. We just got to replace him in the aggregate. We got to get 3 players that equate
Billy,
Giambi.
This is Tyler Clark. He is mislabeled.
Billy, this is Xavier McLeod. South Carolina doesn't want him anymore, but we do. Hey, who's this guy?
People look at the defensive line position and they want to look at the sacks. They want to produce sacks, but they're looking at it all wrong. You want to produce stops. You want to produce like
oh, you were cooking.
I was.
You were cooking there for a little bit for an ad lib. That's not bad. Billy, this is Kristen Miller. He just hit the portal.
But now he's
just kidding.
Back.
All right, where are we at? Jurasik?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Hold on, I had some notes here. Oh, who needs a sudden superstar more, offense or defense?
Can I pick where it's at?
Yeah, anything. Yeah, like all of a sudden, whoa, shit, dude might be the best at his position in the sport.
You know, I was about to say defense. I think it's either defensive line or wide receiver. Like, those are the options for me. That's who I'm narrowing it down to. Yeah. But I think that we've learned over the past few years, like, it is so impactful to have a superstar on your defensive line. Yeah. It is so impactful. It changes everything for you. Here's
the way I'll put it. Speaking of the aggregate, offensively, if we have 11 really good football players and a point guard, man, we're going to cook your ass. Like, we are going to be a great offense. If we're really good as a collective, we will be great offensively. Defensively, though, boy, if I have one superstar, particularly like you said, close to the ball, if we got one superstar corner, we can avoid him. Yeah. Now, granted, he takes the whole half of the field away, basically. We have a great safety, same thing. We can kind of avoid him. But if you got a great linebacker, if you got a great defensive lineman, like superstar, that dude's going to wreck shit at any point. When he just, like, that was the thing about Jalen, is when he just, all right, guess what, guys? I'm going to be the best player out here right now. Everybody ready? Like, that's basically what he did in college. It was like, all right, this play, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to do my job. But this next play, buddy, you ain't going to do shit, all right? It's going to be all me. I'm Jalen Carter. I am the best player on this field today. He would do that like 6-7 times a game, and everybody remembers those moments. But when you got a superstar on that line of scrimmage, on that side of the ball, you can really shut shit down. Yeah, I mean, again, it changes everything for you. It's so impactful, and it changes what offenses have to do. Absolutely. All right, last topic of the day, Jurasik film study. Actually, I'm gonna do the Jurasik film study, and then we're gonna do the 100 days to kick off. What are you most excited about? And close with that. So we might get a little bit more than 2 hours tonight. Shame on us for giving you more than you asked for. Jurasik, Watched the tape today. When he first committed, I came on the show and I was like, yeah, man, one of my worst takes I've had recently. Don't know, maybe just a spot filler. They needed some experience. This is some depth.
Yeah.
And then I started making phone calls, and the phone calls were, hey, don't look at 23. He was banged up the whole year. Just don't even watch it. Go watch 22 and tell me what you think. So I watched 22 late last night. And I'm sitting there watching it, and he had 3 catches against Oregon. 4 for 45 yards, I think it was. A nothing game, right? Bro, Oregon's whole defensive schedule, or defensive game plan was like, hey, where's 84? Where's 84? 84? 84. All right. Just watch 84. In the red zone, double 84. We got double 84. Stanford's whole game plan, okay, or at least most of their easy money offense was he is the yak option. He's going to be the option in all of our RPO, all of our sprint options, everything that's like, hey, quarterback, there's the easy money. He's going to be open. 84. Offensive game plan in general. Watch a lot of Georgia football the last 5 years. If I've watched really good offensive coordinating, I found out, because the bad offensive coordinating sticks out like a sore thumb. Jay Will, it's awful. Okay, not awful's the wrong word. It's not great. All right, so that's the other thing that I noticed. Quarterback play, not great. But even when the coordinator was like, "Hey, it's 3rd and 5. Our best player is Jurasic. We're going to run him right in front of your face." He's at the end of the line of scrimmage. He's going to run an in cut. He's going to be on a linebacker or a safety. He's going to be wide ass open. Off of it. Throw it into coverage. Boom. Get off the field, 3rd and 5. But this kid in general, 6'5". I would give him 5. He's listed at 4. He plays at 5. All right, 6'5", 245. Really, really smooth and explosive. Like, noticeable on tape that he covers ground really fluidly and really quickly. The other thing about him, I texted it into the Discord. He plays the game of football with a pole in his spine. You know what that means?
I would assume that he can just hold his ground really well.
No, he's in a perfect body position at all times. I guess I'm going to have to demonstrate a pole in the spine. All right, here we go. I wish I had a PVC pipe in here. That tells you I'm not doing my rehab properly. All right, so we're just gonna do it this way. All right. Oh, what's going on here? We'll just send it here. All right. So if I were to stick a pole right through my body, it would be right here in my spine. All right, if I squat in a proper alignment, you see how my chest and my knees and my toes are still in that pole alignment on the screen here? All right, if at any point I get out of that alignment, it looks really wonky, right? If I play chest over toes, or if I play too high and on my heels, right, now I no longer have a pole in my spine. But if at all times I am in this really good posture alignment, hey, chill out. If I'm in this really good posture alignment, I have a pole in my spine. He plays the game of football, particularly in the run game, as a blocker. This is when this matters. He plays the game of football with a pole in his spine. Okay, so he's always in a really, really strong and powerful and balanced position. It's when you hear, when you hear a scout say he's never in a bad spot, that's what they're talking about. That here's a really simple way. You know what a hang clean is? Where you catch the weight in front of you right here.
Oh yeah.
You catch the weight right here. When you're in the position to catch that weight, okay, that is the most powerful and prepared and balanced spot we can possibly be in if you're a proper lifter, right? And you so oftentimes, as a football evaluator, particularly in moments of striking and contact, that's where we're supposed to be. We want to be We want to be loaded in our glutes. Okay. We want to be loaded in our lower spine. We want to be loaded in our quads. We want to be loaded in the front of our shin bones, right? We want to be knees slightly over toes. We want to be hips back, chest up, right? All these things they tell you when you're supposed to be lifting weights. That's where we want to be when we're delivering points of contact, right? Blocking, tackling, running the football. All of those things. So when we're out of whack or when we're in a bad body positioning, those things should stick out like a sore thumb on tape. If you're an evaluator, to me, they do. And that's what you're looking for. For him, he looks like he's in a perfect, powerful position at all times. So there you go. All right. Jurasic, that's what I'm excited about. What are you most excited about for this 2024 season, my boy? We're 100 days away.
I am excited that this year we are going to get a proper national champion that nobody can bitch, moan, and complain about.
Hey!
Nobody can throw any excuses their way. If you win a national title this year, basically for the foreseeable future, you freaking earn that thing. Nobody can tell you otherwise. It's not because injuries happen, because that's football, especially with an elongated season. It's going to happen. We can't use that as an excuse anymore.
It's not because you got to limp through a bitch-ass ACC schedule for 3 years in a row and got a permanent seat in the playoff.
Yeah, because even if you do have a weak regular season, you still got to go through the expanded playoff. You still got to go through multiple teams in a playoff format. So whoever wins the national title this year, you are rightfully crowned national champions, and nobody can say anything to you.
You didn't steal signs. Hopefully.
Hopefully. You didn't steal comms in the helmet.
Oh my God, we didn't talk about James Franklin tonight. Hey, yo, I'm gonna talk real quiet here. Y'all need to go look up the James Franklin story, because James Franklin might have, allegedly, I'm speaking real quiet because this is really sensitive information. This is not a joke. James Franklin might have gotten a football player kicked off of his team and off of medical support that had attempted suicide. I am most excited to look at this offense this year. Really, like the weapons on this offense. Okay, very, very crazy thing going on at Penn State right now. Not to be joked about. CJ Allen, the show that is CJ Allen this year, super excited. Michael Williams at Jack, oh my God,
man.
Super excited.
Top of the list.
Road games at Tuscaloosa, Oxford, and Austin, super excited. Okay, got to go to Roosters in Oxford with us. Okay, got to. Offensive line, particularly 54 and 55, super excited. Dylan Fairchild, put me in two. I want to be serious. Dylan Fairchild, y'all watch him closely this year. This might be the best offensive guard Georgia's had in, I don't know, a long time. I think it might be that this year. Pay attention. I'm going to be watching it closely. We're going to definitely be paying attention to it on tape this fall. And I'm super excited to see what they do with Jared Wilson. Please be creative. If he really is this athletic, which he is, I've seen it on tape, do some fun shit, man. You got two guards that are brawlers, three, Morris, Fairchild, and Ratledge. Put those dudes on down blocks. Put that center out in space. Get him running, please. Move people. Move people on angles. Get people out. Have fun. If you don't, I'm going to criticize you. I'm dead serious. And I won't even have to do it on air. Okay? I'll just put it out in the ether. I'm mad. And I'll put it on Twitter somewhere. We'll do it somewhere where it gets loud. All right? Not super aggressive, but I want to see it, please. I'm super excited about it. Starks, Michael, Smile, all three levels, super excited. CJ Allen as well. The three Allens, the three levels this year, you have a superstar. Kel, both the backers, and Malachi, super excited to see it. Do you want to just call it a day? 10:05 already.
Yeah, we can call it a day.
All right, boys and girls. Appreciate you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Love ya. Bye.